Let's go over our first architectural pattern. So with architectural patterns, there's never really a one-size-fits-all approach, meaning we can't look at a pattern and develop every single piece of software with that pattern. So with these patterns, what we're kind of creating here is we're creating a toolbox that we can build off of. So if we understand maybe 5 or 6 popular patterns, whenever we get to a problem, we'll understand how exactly we should go about it, or at least a general direction of where we should go. And then for that specific problem, we can actually develop a architecture for it. So don't think that you can just apply these patterns, completely and totally to a project. These are, again, they're sort of ideas. They're ways that things can be done, and you could think of a problem and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to use a pipe and filter and then a client server, and then, sort of link it together with my own architecture. So just with that little disclaimer, let's get started on this. The first one, like I said, is the pipe and filter pattern. The pipes are the connections of data, and the filters are things like these, like divisible by 10, even, odd. So for example, if we had a little data set right here, if we had like a little data set of 3, 5, 7, we could send it to our first filter, our second filter, and then maybe that's the output. So these right here are the pipes. So this right here is the pipe. And these right here are the filters. Now there's an important aspect that we have to go over. There's something very important with these pipes and filters. The input must match the output. And what I mean by this is I don't mean that, 357 has to go into every filter and then 357 has to come out. What I mean is that the same type of input needs to come out from each one of these so that we can make these completely and totally sort of intermixable. We can take this and put this one here. We can take this and put this one here. We can add 5 more. We could only do 1. That's the important part. So for example, if we have 3, 5, 7, and it goes into one that's, for example, times 10, it's going to come out with an example of 30, 50, 70, and then that's going to go into the next filter. If you notice, it's the exact same thing. It's just another number set. Maybe for this one, instead of times 10, we say only want, maybe let's put another number here so this works. We only want odd. So this comes out and now it's going to be 3, 5, 7, and that's going to go into the next one. The size changed, that's perfectly fine, but the type stayed the same. They are still just number sets. And again, I'm going to keep driving this home. That's what the pipe and filter is all about. You take in a certain type, you put it through a filter, and you get a certain type back out the other end. And then with the pipe and filter, we can also apply actions. And what those are is they just take the data and they do something with them, and then they return the exact same data. So for example, send to boss, maybe we have the 3, 5, 7. We put it into the send to boss, so we put it into the boss, and it's going to take that and it's going to send it to him. But what does it output? Well, it outputs the number sequence again, 3, 5, 7. So we could send it to the boss, multiply it by 10, and then send it to the clients or something like that. So an action is perfectly fine as a filter. It'll do something, it'll take the data, maybe it'll send it to a server, maybe it'll do a calculation and set another variable. But the important part is the output must be the exact of the input if it's an action. I mean, you can change it in the action too and have it come out differently, but there needs to be an output that we can work with. So let's go over a couple little examples here and how you might use this. Let's say that you have an investment company and you are working with, stocks that went up and down. So you have this list of profits and losses on your stock. So maybe the first one, maybe these are all in dollars. You have the first one is a positive 10, and then maybe a negative 30, and then maybe a positive 11, and then a negative 15. Let's say that these are just the numbers that you're working with. So now what we can do is we can actually sort of build a model to help us with this. So we want to take anything that is greater than 0. So we're going to take the greater than 0 one right here. And then we want to send that to the clients. We want to show the clients that we're doing great, that we're doing really good stuff here. So anything greater than 0, we're going to send to the clients. And then anything less than 0, we are going to send to the boss, like so. So we're going to grab this and we're going to send it to the boss. And then so now what we're going to do is we actually take this data and we put it in. So if we put this data in here, it's going to go greater than 0, and what's going to come out is only the 10 and the 11. That's going to be passed in to send to clients. Those are going to be sent to the clients, and then it's going to pass an output. There's nothing left, so it stops right there. And then we also pass it into less than 0, and then we send that to the boss like so. And then all that's going to be here is negative 30, and then -15. So the clients are getting what's going good and our boss is getting what's going bad, so maybe he can help rectify the situation. And a lot of times pipe and filters will do this. They'll have this architecture where you go out and you sort of break into these separate things, and maybe even the data comes back together and it keeps working. Maybe these all start their own little chains or something like that. But the pipe and filter just allows us to take the same data and throw it in any way that we want. For example, again, just for clarity's sake, this will make a little less sense, but let's say that instead of sending the clients, for some reason, we only want to send clients odd numbers. So we take the send to clients and we move it over here. And then we go up here and we say we only want to use odd numbers. And again, this is a weird example, but this works perfectly fine. The code works because these are little black boxes. As long as numbers come in, it doesn't matter how you set this up. So now it's going to grab all the numbers greater than 0. It's going to then only take the odds, so that means that we're only going to be left with 10 right here. And then it's going to send those to the clients. And again, you can mix these up in any way, shape, or form. But that is overall the pipe and filter approach. Remember, the key points here are that the input must match the output. So if you have a set of numbers, it needs to come out as a set of numbers. If you have a set of strings, it needs to come out as a set of strings, or any way that that would work with the same sort of types here. And then also, even if you use an action, you need to also output that action as well. Everything needs to be customizable where you can drag and drop them in any order that you want, and it'll work out perfectly fine with that order.